Well, tell me, you've had right now you're doing Western art. In the last few years, last 5, 6 years, you've been emphasizing Western art. For throughout most of the '70s, it seemed like you were in greeting cards and cartoon illustrations. I remember as a child, 5 and 6, you were mainly into encyclopedias and
Oh yeah,
and that kind of thing, and scientific art. Why do you? How does your art evolve? What is the process of that? I mean, you just
yeah. Well, I guess it's when you dabble in art for so long. I guess the biggest thing is finding a subject matter. There are many artists, not many, but there's a number of artists who are very fortunate indeed. Right as soon as they get out of art school, when they have some information on how to paint picture, the values and the composition and drawing, and are able to draw fairly well, they end up with a subject matter that enthralls them and they're excited about. Now, an artist is fortunate if they have that, if they get excited about something early in life, when they just learn the principles of drawing and painting. They're very fortunate indeed. Now, I can't say that I ever had that, because I got involved with drawing heads, and of course there I got infatuated with drawing, for example, for standard, I don't know if you remember that, Bruce, but I used to do little heads of a gas station attendant with his standard gas cap and so on, and maybe holding a tire. Now, I got excited about being able to create something of that nature. Whereas somebody else, of course, at that period of Western art almost was non-existent. In fact, it wasn't. They just let Remington and Russell and Sherry Vogel, who was very well known, of course, now, but at that time he wasn't even heard of. There are many that were not even heard of that were painters back in the 1880s and 1890s. But we just let that dormant. So I guess after seeing a lot of being exposed, you might say, in fact, some of the trips that we had taken out west, I remember seeing Sherry Vogel. I don't know if you remember that, Bruce, but they had a display of Sherry Vogel. Now, this was back in the, 60s when we were out west. And I thought, well, I could do the same thing, and I might dabble in it, which I did. And I still wasn't that excited, but after a period, it begins to grow, it begins to develop. The desire to paint a horse, the desire to capture the feet and the movement and the trotters and the pacers, and you got to know the difference between them and the anatomy and so on. And it was a challenge. I guess anything in life is a challenge, and once you meet that challenge, you try to perfect it, and then who knows, maybe go on to other things again. So,
what kind of future plans are you hoping for with your art career?
Well, I guess perfecting, trying to perfect Western art. I have several contacts now. In fact, I sold some calendars that, by the way, even in the closed season, they were not buying, but I send in transparencies, and you're supposed to send in the original after they accept the transparency, and here they've bought the transparency without even looking at the original. So this again is it gives you a stimulant. It gives you a desire to pursue it further. And now there's other calendar companies out west that do this type of thing, and I hope to work up a portfolio. I'm starting now, and I have it fairly complete. To work up a portfolio of Western art of not every facet, but covering a large portion of what transpired in the 1880s and 1890s, and maybe even even earlier than that, the 1850s. And once you can actually never run out of subject matter. There's always something going there. So it would take a lifetime. When you figure some of these, like Russell, they spend an entire lifetime, and they still felt that could have worked on a lot of many thousands of more pictures. So that is what's so challenging, and it's trying to do something that the others don't haven't touched upon, and give it your own personality. You know, an artist is how does that? There's one poet, Hemingway. I forget now who would mention it, but an artist is worth nothing if he's not creating or not if he's not sketching or painting. So there has to be ways to communicate. The only thing an artist is good for is to communicate visually. Just like a writer tries to communicate by writing things or coming out with sharp phrases and pass the salt. He has to communicate. The same thing here with this. So that's my avenue.
Well, if we could wind up, I'd like to take some close-up pictures of all your paintings up here, and then you can kind of narrate them as you go along.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
take a few minutes,
Yeah.
all right?
Well, now these are somewhat...
That's a little farm scene. The orphans of, I forget the titles of some of these, but they're orphan sheep that have no parents, and the mother is helping them. It was made, what is it, 4 years ago. It's a subject matter that I enjoy doing very much.
All right.
Next is a spotted Appaloosa, and of the Nez Perce tribe. That was made, what does the date say, 1980, 3 years. Let's see, Appaloosa, a mare and a colt, somewhere out west. Now that was made in 78. Now the next one, yeah, that is smoke signals from Messages of the West, I believe the title is. Or yes, one of the editors of when I do the hillbilly cartoons has seen that, and he says, "Say we should use that for our hillbilly." He says, and make a cartoon and have the heading, and he says, me tell him wife, I never take calls at work." Our sketching trips are not sketching trips. Well, yeah, sketching trips in a way. But photographic trips, I take pictures of the various farms, and that's someplace, it's located somewhere out in Tennessee or Kentucky or in that area. It's the colt's first feed, trying to break away from, he hasn't been touching oats or something, and they're, oh yes, that is a no trespassing. They have that log the Indians would notch out on the side of a mountain, little areas of where they can make a shortcut in through a valley rather than go all the way around, and that's one of their toll gates. I forget the title of that, but toll gate, I guess, should suffice.
Now over to the next one.
Is there a glare there?
No, it's fine.
Well, that's just buffalo hunt. Oh yeah, medicine man waiting for a peace talk. Now that also is with the Nez Perce tribe. Although someone might say, "Oh, but I see a Sioux or an Apache emblem on his hair," but they did borrow trinkets of that nature. Now the apron, of course, is definitely Nez Perce, and the drum there, and also the peace pipe. Well, that's early morning. He's surveying his territory, and